Congress, the intel agencies, the entire executive branch. Congress funds them and has oversight over them. They shouldn't be mindlessly carrying their water or acting on their priorities, right?
They shouldn't be, but here's what's interesting about how fundraising works in Washington. If you're a member of Congress and you have to get reelected every 2 years, you need money to campaign. You need money for your ads. You need money for the literature you mail people. You need money to encourage your voters to get out and vote. Well, it's hard to raise that money. So in Washington, the military-industrial complex and other big industries have all of their lobbyists. Well, they can host you a fundraiser literally in one night and raise you hundreds of thousands of dollars as a member of Congress, and you won't have to spend hours on the phone calling donor after donor, begging for, can you give me $1,000? Can you give me $2,000? Please, I really need your help. I got to get reelected. I've got 5 primary opponents. These members of Congress don't have to continue doing that hard work and begging and begging and begging for money from other donors or from their districts when they can walk in a room, have a cocktail reception with little weenies on a stick and a bunch of alcoholic drinks, and they're getting written big checks over and over by all of these lobbyists and all of these big companies, major companies that really thrive on American taxpayer contracts.
Yeah.
Problem with that is this, and I don't know if I can tag in this video, but I'll do it anyway. And that is why television is so wrong. R.F. Kennedy was talking about this fairness doctrine with television. When you've got somewhere like the BBC that, regardless of these other ulterior motives that, they say that have been concealed, at least the BBC had at least it claimed impartiality. It didn't have adverts on, even though they ended up, baking and doing all these things, gardening, that pretty much promotes all those products and shows you how to use them, and get you to, change your conservatories and do your houses up and all these things. They didn't actually have commercial adverts. And the thing is with the BBC, it was paid for by the taxpayers' money, this license fee. Therefore, they were meant to be impartial, and you never had all this, arguments about Jacob Rees-Mogg presenting, or anyone else who's, meant to be an elected MP or government position presenting, because they were always on there asking questions, being accountable. Now, there are some arguments for the BBC saying, oh, well, it's controlled by the House of Lords and Parliament, and therefore whichever party that was in Parliament in charge kind of sort of controlled it anyway. But at least they pretended to be, impartial to a certain extent. I kind of believe that the BBC to a certain extent was impartial, but probably censored. The thing is, it didn't allow people to think outside of the box, and in a way, the television has always been used to control the status quo. This is normal, I'm not saying either way, but all these arguments over gender and stuff like that, they very much concreted, this is men, these are women, this is what ladies do, this is what men do, these are the jobs that, ladies do and men do. Generally, this is how people act and behave. And now, the thing is, they didn't need to go over the top with the law, because we went to a fought for our freedoms supposedly. So we had licenses and documents and things like that. But now, as technology and communication advances, there is more of an opportunity for other people to take a control over it, and many people's own opinions. It's very, very obvious that television, only certain people were getting on television and broadcasting, and only certain people were selected, for pop songs and music and so forth. And now, the alternative, medium, all the YouTube and Facebook has given everyone a platform. And now that there are a lot of all the things that people used to think in private and understand and talk about, in student parties, philosophy and so forth, basically the truth, people listened to the TV and the TV had an influence, but people always had their own opinions and people didn't always agree with it or didn't even like it, right? And now all the real truth of people, the real truth of the world is coming out into the awareness. And the people who had a certain control over it, even though they pretended that was a fairness doctrine, but that fairness doctrine, it has been taken over. But the thing is, with what this lady's talking about, political materials are meant to be tax-free, so they're affordable. So these political campaigns, like she's talking about, really are supposed to get things for a hell of a lot cheaper than anyone else. You know, all their communications, all their letters, all their promotional stuff, and their travel is meant to be cheaper. But then she's saying that, you know, it still takes a lot of work and effort, right? Even if it's a little cheaper than, you know, commercial and business things. The thing is that if you had something like the BBC that truly was impartial, like, you know, a referee, and it wasn't controlled by an authority who had a certain agenda or whatever, then, you know, really, if the public are paying for a TV station or channel, you shouldn't need to make all those phone calls to ask for funds. You should, If it's elections on behalf of the government and you're a serious candidate, I mean, I know that like everyone in America can't be a candidate, but not everyone wants to do it. But, you know, they've got all these TV programs like on Channel 4, you know, lining up people naked, you know, and picking a partner or whatever from nude people on a night. I don't like those programs. Love Island, all the money spent on Ant and Dec and so forth, even get Matt Hancock on there. What really should be happening is, you know, if the public are paying for something like the BBC, when there are certain people seriously running for election and they've, you know, applied for it and so forth, they should all be given, you know, 5 minutes to speak equally at a certain time, like the news is on, you know, and then they can have an opportunity to ask for people to sponsor and donor at that point, you know, equal and fairly. You really don't, you know, and when you look at Trump, I saw the Trump figures for how much he'd spent on campaigns compared to Biden. I'm sure these figures were legitimate, and I think Biden used only a third of what Trump used, which means that he was throwing a lot of that money that she's talking about. All this money was used in excess, and he didn't win. Biden won. So Biden won on 1/3 of the money, which means that a lot of that money that she's saying coming in is in gross excess and wasted, you know. And the thing is, to be honest, all of that money is, because if it's democratic and if it's a genuine, you know, candidate who's applying and registering, really, when everyone's paying their taxes and so forth, it should be figured into the mainstream. This corporate takeover, definitely. And the thing is, it's all that they're making money, and you know, it is about making money. It is about money and about. They own these platforms now, and they don't believe that they belong to the public anymore. And this is what's happening to the BBC getting attacked. The BBC's getting attacked, and you know, by all these private stations and channels, because they're making a lot of money on commercial. But the thing is, she's saying, right, that, you know, they're putting these parties on and having these events, and you know, otherwise she'd have to be bringing people up. What the different political representatives stand for and what they believe in and how they believe the country should be, what direction the country should be taken in. Notice that these commercial interests, whether it's television stations or adverts or whatever, they've got, you know, they're filling up these O2 arenas when it is these celebrities, you know, whether it's O2 Arena or whether getting people watching their programs. Those people, this is probably more significant than you know, saying, you know, to pick the phone up and ringing and doing the work for it. The fact is that what the fruits of what the political what the political parties in charge have created and what they've brought into existence in the world, mainly with all these bad foods and, unhealthy lifestyles and products they've made, they've done that, and they're selling the products, really, and selling the lifestyle and products, and it's actually ended up harming us. And now after the governments have asked, they have made all the legislation up and guided everyone into the place we are, and now they've got the cheek to say, now you all need controlling. They've allowed all these companies to encourage this eating behaviour or this social behaviour. They've had the influence of the TV, like I said earlier, the status quo. They actually have even turned up in the audiences themselves and clapped, being on the shows. Everything that these TV shows are and everything they've sold, right, is what they have welcomed and even rewarded and applauded. And now they're claiming that we need all the technology and devices aren't actually going to be there for us to control, us to order, us to, every single machine that you get is at your command. No, now they're going to use all this new advanced tech. They put the bad influence on us, and they encouraged all the behaviour and encouraged the sale of all these things that now they're saying that, we aren't responsible enough to have them or to use them without their machines now being used to govern us. All the machines and technology now are going to be used to govern us because of all of the influence that they've put out through TV and through the advertising and products, that is the biggest insult ever. They guided us with the power of the TV, with the power of the products. Labour wanted people to go in and make all those products in gross excess. They've got us to the state we're in, and now they're saying, this is all bad, and it's your fault. So now all the machines aren't going to be at your command because you're not fit and capable to command them. You aren't fit to give orders to the machines because you're all addicts. Now we're going to have to make all the machines and have the machines control you to get all you into good shape and good behaviour, right? But because they only can do that now because of all the money and profits they made to enable the technology and research and development to make all this tech is from our demise. And now they're saying that it's our fault. It was the government aren't responsible. The government have not been responsible. The government have never been responsible. And now they're blaming us and saying we're all going to have to be put under the control of machines because we're not responsible, when it was the government the whole time. It's the government and the companies. And that is the worst part. And they're still doing it now. They're still banging out of the television, justifying. There's nothing wrong with having everyone, people, healthy people and relationships. We're here to enjoy other humans. All they want us to do is listen to them, watch their TV shows, clap at their TV shows. Our friends and family are being hijacked by Ant and Dec. Our friends and families, they want our friends and families to go to the O2 and sit and stand and watch celebrities. They want us to go there and do that as well. They don't think that there's anything more interesting than we could be doing than watching Ant and Dec or Jeremy Vine or whoever it is. The television is the worst invention ever. So it's good to have technology and ideas, but now we're getting technology and knowledge and ideas. They don't want us to have it without having control over it. I think the mobile phone, I've had the only reason that we got conquered is because of the Roman Empire, because of the military force because of the weapons, the tactics, and all of the armor and the shields. If they didn't have all those massive amounts of shields and weapons and the tactics to use them, they wouldn't have been able to come in. The Celts had a social order which was enforced by ideology and beliefs. They had very strong control over people with their beliefs and ideas and the religion. So they didn't really need all the physical hard force. They didn't have an army in any respects of what the Romans had. So because the whole culture was controlled by the ideas and the religion, mental in the mind, they noticed that the Romans, they didn't have the ability to overthrow that culture simply by ideas. Their religions and ideologies couldn't overthrow that religion. So they had to use force. They had to take it by physical force. They had to bully their way in. And they did it physically with objects. And they forced their way in and they got people to join up. And it was physical objects, machines really, a machine-like use of these, those shields. The same thing's happening now with, I think, the mobile phone, these tablets, these glowing phones. It's almost kind of like having the vision-like dreams of the religious experience of what the Celts controlled over the mental plane, combined with, it's like every mobile phone's a Roman shield, it's a physical object that they've got, which is using a force now, and actually even gathering information and intel. We're being overtaken by a ideological, intelligent force that is also using objects as well, but in a very different way to how the Romans did, by brute force. But it's using a physical object. It's almost like combining the power of the dreaming and the visions with the light up glowing tablet with the Roman shield, because every single person has got hold of one, and it's forced into your house now. They've got the TV always dropping comments in and quoting and throwing in influencer things the whole time, and also gathering intel now on people. It's like some kind of, I'm even studying now, talking into my phone. We can't even really have a discussion because we don't know who's intervening now. We don't know who's intervening or modifying, or every time you say something, you don't know who hears it, or if no one hears it, or if you're getting suppressed, or if they modify or change it. We don't actually know where we are with it now. To be honest, we've got to a point where unless you speak to someone in person, actually physically, you don't even actually know whether they got your message and they got it straight and heard it without it being changed. How do you know? So it's physical contact and actually meeting in person, groups getting together, when you only actually really know what's going on and what happened to them or what happened to each other. And when everyone is spending the time and wanting to turn up at a gig and just standing and listening to someone here, or sitting in a studio listening to one person, it's all about what those people are saying. Now, what she's saying in this program, she is saying that, she's having it's very difficult, for her, although to say she said that she got twice as many votes to get elected, so she can't have been doing too bad. But she's trying to say that it's very, very difficult, to get elected when there's this opposition. We've been overthrown. There's a new power, just like with the Roman army rising, the Roman Empire, and that it is the tech geeks. It is the tech geeks. It is Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Google. And unfortunately, they are all unified because they like the money and they like the devices. They like the technology. It's almost like if you've got the Roman army, but if you didn't like swords, if you didn't like fighting, if you really didn't like it, well, you're going pretty much out of your way to, arm an entire force. It's almost like saying, it's almost like the peacemaker. It's kind of like saying, if the guy who invented Gatling cannons and guns didn't really like guns, he didn't like war, but he would be a bit of a hypocrite to say that after he invented them and paved the way for it, It's... And the conclusion that I've come to with it all is what is happening now with what all the plans they've laid out and all the proposals that they've made clear. What effect that these devices and machines is going to have is it's going to control the evolution of human beings and most creatures on this planet. It is going to control the evolution of humans and the form of humans as well. What form we are. Now, the whole point of religion and God and the whole point of creation is that we were all free to evolve into diverse beings and creatures and humans. And there's a freedom in nature of that and scientific freedom. And, at the end of the day, all these countries and nations are separate and we've got legislation in place where, like Assange, when it's illegal to spy on another military or it's illegal to give information to another government if it's not an ally. But yet, these businesses and companies are doing quite the opposite. They're gathering information and intel on members of the government or MPs or business people or councillors, anyone. And some of these companies are abroad. Half of it's got to be illegal what they're doing already. And these business and companies now are taking over the planet and they want everyone to follow suit, because, they don't want to have... When they own all the companies and everyone on the planet is working for them, all their customers, therefore, are their workers. Now, the thing is, if you're not someone's worker, he's not your boss. When you walk in with money... you want your shoes shining, he shines your shoes for you. You want someone to cut your hair for you, they cut your hair. They're serving you. But when they own every business and you're their employee, right, you do as they say, you ain't got... All your workers are your customers. So your customers then are regarded as your own workers, right? And then that's not a good position to be in. So, and then when you can replace all your workers and you don't even need them, the only, humans, therefore, that are left are either, people who are your friends and people who aren't your friends, And they claim all the time, these people like people who turn up in studios and applaud them. And the thing is, what happens if you don't think it's funny? What happens if you don't like it? The problem with the whole culture of TV is this. If you're not on there clapping, there's no need for you, there's no use for you. On the basis that if you've got a television station, ITV, and you invite a lot of people into a studio and you've got an entertainer on, right? It doesn't matter whether he's a comedian or whether it's whatever he's selling, whether it's the shopping channel or whatever. If you have a studio come in who don't clap and don't applaud and either don't worship, like, or love it, in fact, they might be booing, there's no need for them. In fact, it's detrimental. What do you call it? RFK calls it malinformation. It's undesirable, in fact, detrimental. So they need and want you all clapping and applauding to everything they do. And not only that, they want everyone sat at home liking it and applauding to what they do. Now, that's not democratic. And unfortunately, they're doing this in the voting now. If you don't watch the programme, and but you can't get away from it now. Because even if you don't watch their programmes, even if you watch something else, they're using their adverts to leverage their way into the other things you're watching. So they can still have their say and their words in between the other stuff you're watching. So, these people do not actually believe in fairness. They don't believe in democracy. They actually claim they care about people. The only way that they're doing what they're doing is because they claim they're doing it for us. Oh, we're providing entertainment. Oh, we're providing food. We like you. Health. National Health Service. They don't actually. If you didn't vote for them, non-voters, and if you aren't turning up in their studio applauding everything that they do, they don't not only not want you there, they're actually now setting the authorities against people and all the be. It's a miracle. It's an absolute miracle that David Cameron, Theresa May and Rishi Sunak haven't made it a legal requirement to clap for them. It's a miracle that Rishi Sunak and David Cameron and Suella Braverman haven't made it a law so that when they're on TV, you have to watch it. That when they make a speech, you have to turn up and hear it. That they don't have a parade in the middle of the town and everyone's got to turn up. It's amazing they don't have the police coming round everyone's house and making them come out into the centre to watch it. Because that's literally what the IRA apparently used to do, knock on the houses and get everyone out on the streets. You know? I actually truly believe that these people, by the culture they've created with television, they think there's something wrong with you. If you don't watch GB News or ITV or Coronation Street, there must be something wrong with you. If you don't go to the theatre and watch their plays, you're not right. You're not normal. These people actually think that if you're not clapping when they make a speech, that there's something wrong with you, that there couldn't actually possibly be another opinion. And that is the problem with them. And it's why we now can't get away from them. At least if you could drive, or if you had friends, or if you could go and do your own thing, it was all right. I didn't need to watch TV because I could go out with my friends. I could go do this and that. Now, when they take that away from you, so you can't even go out, you can't even get to meet your friends, then what have you got left? And then they're coming into your house and broadcasting and popping their adverts up into your house. Now, these people are psychopathic, and every single police chief officer in this country can sell his soul to Satan, and has sold his soul to Satan, because keeping the peace, justice of the peace is for the people. The laws are there to keep the peace. Now, there's no peace when a developer builds a factory next to you with a beep, 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 beep going all day. You can't block it. And I'll say to every police chief on the face of this planet, how is he keeping the peace when there's a building site that you objected to that's beep, beep, beeping all day? It's not keeping the peace. Now, these people want to control our evolution and the form of human beings. That's not keeping the peace. They're actually acting like they are gods. And they're even saying it now. Give feedback to the creator. Give feedback to the creator. I say that Bill Gates is insane. He is insane, and so is Elon Musk and Google. They think they're gods, and it's the computer geeks who have now got into a position with the technology where we can't get to them, like Roman soldiers behind shields, and they're also coming into our houses and homes. Now, if these police chiefs do not do something, the government is not God. What right? Which country is doing it? Tell me which country is doing it. A government is there to make up laws to keep the peace. It's not there to control evolution or design humans. Now, I want to know, to the police chief, who is controlling our evolution? That's not keeping the peace. Who is the God?